We have to do a shout out to Candace Owens because despite the haters, despite the trolls, despite the people that have been slandering and silencing her and saying how crazy a lunatic and anti-Semitic she is, she became the number one podcast in the world. In the world. So unless the entire planet Earth and all of human civilization is determined to hate Jews, I think she's number one for a particular reason. And it's not anti-Semitism. It's not crazy lunacy. It's not because she, went against America and is, some Qatarian paid shill, but because she may actually reveal some truth that people are hungry for. And a lot of people are desperate for that nugget of knowledge that they won't hear from mainstream media, that they won't hear from even mainstream podcasters. You're not going to hear this information from Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire. You're not going to hear this from Patrick Bet-David. You're not going to hear this from Benny Johnson. You're not going to hear this from a lot of these people on the right wing and even the left wing. You're not going to hear from David Pakman or Crystal and Kyle on the left. And, I was told for many years, I believe the paradigm that, the left versus right for so long, until the point, about 2020 maybe-ish, that I come to realization that, hey, maybe, left versus right, that whole paradigm is completely false. And maybe there are some good people on the right that I can benefit from and people on the left that don't benefit me and vice versa. And there's good and bad in lots of different people, as the Frederick Douglass quote would say, I support anyone to do good and no one to do evil. And with Candace Owens, even though I was one of those people that despised her at the beginning of being known about her because she was a right-wing, crazed person, has kind of grown on me. And I think she's grown herself because of just having this different perspective of not thinking everything is left versus right or vice versa, and having some actual real world experience and perspective of what's happening in the world. So here's Candace Owens. Here's her announcement on this.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please, because today is obviously a day of celebration. Yes, in case you missed it, we officially have become the number one podcast in the world, and the haters stay mad. It's here. You are here. We are all number one in the world. It's been trending on Twitter. It's been so exciting. Look at this. Candace Owens' podcast hits number one worldwide. Best part, without promotion, which means we have not spent, since we started this podcast a year and a half ago, a single dollar on advertising, okay? Because we couldn't do it. We were a startup. I was fired. Things were down. It was real bad. And yet we are the number one podcast in the world. I will never win any more accolades, probably never be invited to a red carpet event, but that's okay because I've never been happier. And there are so many people to thank. It is true. We must thank Brigitte and Emmanuel Macron for that ill-advised lawsuit. I'd like to thank Kanye West, formerly Kanye West, he is now Ye, for the song Power, because the song Power really made me recognize that you have to stop listening to your haters. You also should recognize that you need the haters to inspire you to keep going. When somebody tells you you can't be something or you must be something, you have to stand up for yourself. You have to have the courage to say, I know the crowd is doing this, but I'm not doing it. And that was me when I no longer wanted to do the pro-Israel thing. Of course, as always, I thank Ben Shapiro. I thank Jeremy Boring, and they realizing it before I did, that I should be fired. I want to thank Australia. Thank you for banning us from an entire country, even though I didn't do nothing. I literally didn't do nothing, but I'm banned. And guess what? You got to hear me anyways.
That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing. Again, you can have your own feelings about Candace Owens. I agree with things she says. I disagree with things she says, but that's incredible. Have the number one podcast on zero advertising budget because she started this on her own after she got fired from the Daily Wire. She's thanking the people that despise her the most, the Ben Shapiros, the Macron family, Jeremy Boring, elsewhere, thanking for the inspiration coming from the haters. And she also says she's got banned from Australia. Banned from an entire country. I didn't even... How? Why? What did Candace Owens do to perpetrate Australia to completely ban her from the country? That's crazy. That's crazy. So even with all that, she still has the #1 podcast. So now people in Australia can still listen to her. Can still listen to her. #1 trending podcast worldwide. So I'm guessing all the censorship and banning did not work. Just like it didn't work for Alex Jones when they tried to cancel and ban him. But now I guess Alex Jones is, pushing the Israel agenda to stay in high hopes with Elon Musk. I don't know what the case may be with that. But it goes to show you, it doesn't work. When you try to cancel someone that you just have an emotional feeling against, it's not going to work because they're going to rise to the top. And that's what's happening with Candace.
Tony Burke. Okay, but in reality, also, obviously, thanking this incredible team, very small. It has stayed small. There's just 4 of us that work on the actual podcast every day. Savannah wearing a ton of hats, Chris in editing, Mark mansplaining, and also being our director, Skylar, the producer, who has to deal with my insane text messages all through the night because my brain is running a million different ways. It's just a really tiny little engine that keeps going. And so that's why we are actually resilient. We do need to hire more people. Thankful to my husband for figuring out how to operate an entire podcast business. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he deals with things. Could not have done this without all of you guys for letting me know that it's okay to just be honest. And it was definitely a trying year, realizing that, especially now, the conservatism thing. What is conservatism? The Republican Party is going through a moment. I don't want to be tied down to the Republican Party, and I want to be able to say something against Democrats and Republicans. And we're doing that. We're speaking truth. We're going to continue to speak truth, and we're very excited today.
There's a lot of people,
ladies.
That's incredible. That is incredible.
who would love to see
And kudos to Candace Owens for all that. She deserves that title. She deserves that title after the horrificness of going through, again, your haters being fired from the Daily Wire, being told you have to swing this direction, you had to kiss up to the ring, and, honesty is a deadly weapon in this kind of industry, even in podcasting. The people that rule over you, the people that are in control and are behind the gears of these platforms, they don't want you to hear the truth. They don't want you to hear what's really happening in the world. They want the pleasantries. They want you to just kiss up to whatever establishment pleases them, whatever narrative, gets more clicks, gets more views, gets more advertising. And the truth is never always that case. It could devastate people. It could really raunch someone. So kudos to Candace Owens for doing that. And staying true and staying honest, which I think is the most admirationable about Candace Owens. I mean, even during the Charlie Kirk assassination, she was the only one that seemed the most level-headed to say, I'm willing to do an investigation. I'm willing to look into this. As everyone else was already going berserk about, yeah, it's a lefty lunatic, and Cash Patel agrees so that's it. That's it. Case closed. Shut up. Don't say anymore. Shut up. Shut up. We don't want to investigate anymore. Shut up. Really? You don't want to talk about how the university paved over the crime scene? How you're only getting a small smidge of the security footage that only shows Tyler Robinson possibly jumping off the building where supposedly he took the shot? You're not concerned about the weird text messages. You're not concerned that he dropped the rifle that was assembled after being disassembled and leaving the screwdriver on the roof, that rifle was near a house that's run by Palantir. You're not concerned about any of that. No. Shut the hell up. Shut the hell up. Cash Patel is telling us the truth, so shut the hell up. Well, Candace Owens, being level-headed, had the determination to actually follow through and figure out what's really going on, and it's really paying off. So here's her statement saying, "We are moving through the top 10 all year, but I woke up this morning to news from Podscribe that we are the #1 podcast in the world. Thank you, Kanye, for creating the song Power, which reminds me daily that nothing is possible without the consistent screams of haters." I wouldn't put congratulations on Kanye, but that's her. That's your personal take of it. But let's see this list here. So these are all the most downloadable, most listened podcasts in the world, categorized here. There's Candace Owens. There's #1. The second one is The Diary of a CEO. Now, I've seen a bit of it. I'm not a regular subscriber. I'm not a regular listener. He does good work. He has some very interesting guests. I like the ones where he recently, the Diary CEO guy, he brings on people that used to work in the tech industry and tells us about AI transformation. Because I think that story, that narrative, that, talking about being the inside of this kind of technological takeover of society, how AI is going to completely revolutionize the way we think, the way we work, the way we do everything, is so important. It's so important to understand the good, the bad, and the ugly of AI technology. So kudos on him for doing that. And I think he's from the UK, actually. Yeah, because that's the UK flag right there. New Heights, I've never heard of that. Rotten Mango, never heard of that. Kill Tony Hinchcliffe. He has some funny comics on there. I've seen a few of his episodes. #5. Surprised that'd be higher. I don't know what that one is. Like Las Closas. I don't know how to say that. The Daily Show. I mean, okay. Smash Reads, Reddit Stories, okay. The Oprah Podcast. Well, Oprah Winfrey, I guess I can say name recognition is going to get you up there. The Y Files Operation Podcast, never heard of that. ABC News Update. Okay, well, give the dog a bone, I guess. ABC News, I guess. Crime Junkie. There's another Spanish one. Joe Rogan. #14. I'm surprised Joe Rogan doesn't get higher views. I'm surprised. Joe Rogan's only at 14. Wasn't it like, 3.5 million downloads a day at one point? I don't know. Maybe having Mark Andreessen and Elon Musk all the time kissing their asses repeatedly downgraded the viewability of the podcast. Again, I enjoy, listening to these people. I enjoy, watching Joe Rogan. Depends on the guest. It depends on the guest. Like, if I'm interested in who comes on that podcast, then I'm going to watch or I'm going to listen to that podcast. Joe Rogan recently had on Charlie Sheen. I enjoyed that conversation. I enjoyed, when he had Bill Murray on, and other influential people. But if it's someone like Mark Andreessen or Elon Musk or someone politically motivated, I try to stay away from Joe Rogan, mostly because I don't think Joe Rogan, it's the same way as people watching The View to get their political advice. I don't think that's, a good enough platform to get the advice from. And I think there's more beneficial people that can actually challenge the narrative and actually challenge people like Elon Musk and Mark Andreessen to a better extent than Joe Rogan. That's my take of it. So, but kudos though to Candace Owens, #1. That's incredible. So here's Evan Kilgore saying Candace Owens thanks Ben Shapiro, Jeremy Boring, and Andrew Clavin for firing her from the Daily Wire. Now their podcast is #1 in the world. Thank you for firing me. He also pokes fun at the unhinged Zionists who are obsessed with her. This is savage. So we've already heard this. I'm not going to play it again. You can see getting here, but I want to show people this. So it's not just the fact that Candace Owens is honest and actually has the integrity to do the investigations like Charlie Kirk, or to investigate the Zionist takeover of MAGA and so on and so forth. But I had a bit of admiration when she did stuff like this. So remember when she was on Patrick Bet-David's podcast, another very high up, influential podcast that's very mainstream, not just by views. I mean mainstream as in political. You know what I mean? Patrick Bet-David asked Candace Owens about Ukraine. And this is at the time when, Ukraine was on the top of many people's priority. People expressed high opinions on Ukraine. There are still people out there that still think it's Ukraine is the number one priority compared to everything else. There's people here in Canada that think we need to starve our nation more to serve the needs of Ukraine. And I think it's just absolutely ridiculous. I think it's absolutely absurd that we are continuing to peddle this money laundering scheme of aiding Ukraine and continuing on this warfare when we are deliberately telling our own selves to starve, that the basic necessities and inflation and skyrocketing cost of living is affecting so many people in our own backyard. And Candace Owens agrees with that. She says, F Ukraine. And here's why she says that.
The people at home are going to respond to perpetually telling them that they have to care about another nation more than their own backyards, that they should be caring more about what's happening in Ukraine, and Chris Christie trying to pitch it, and Pence trying to pitch it, and Nikki Haley, we need to be the police officers of the world when we can't even police her. We can do both. No, we obviously can't. Like, have you walked down the streets of Los Angeles? Have you walked down New York? We clearly obviously can't do both, right? And so having, I think, that the courage to stand on something that doesn't feel establishment popular or mainstream media popular, but that you understand is what people are actually feeling. And, I'm very much a person that from the very beginning has said, F Ukraine, I stand on that. And I would have said it if I was in the debate stage. Like, I would have let them all do their little pitch and the cries and tears, because this gets into the
why if Ukraine is what I ask. Why?
Because rich men north of Richmond, you know what I mean? Because Richmond north of Richmond, because people literally can't put food on the table. You've stopped people from working in America. The average person is struggling to even be able to afford gas, groceries. You have people that are dealing with an influx of crime and illegal immigration in their cities. People whose daughters and kids are being raped and killed. That woman that was horrifically killed in Arizona going on a run by an illegal immigrant. All of this is happening in our country right here. Because if you told me as a mother that I need to care more about what's happening in the neighbor's house while my kids were suffering in my house, I would look at you and tell you were crazy, obviously. Of course, I'm going to take care of my own house first. And if I have something after my house is in perfect order, right? And then you say to me, hey, they need help. That's just common sense. But if my house is in complete chaos and my kids can't eat and my kids are struggling, how dare you tell me that it's wrong to want to care for my own first? And that's exactly what the American foreign policy is amongst the elites.
But Candace.
Wow. What an anti-Semite. I can understand why people hate her so much. My God, caring about the needs of Americans first before any foreign nation, including the most corrupted foreign nations. My God. Don't you care about allies? Don't you care about friends? Isn't that what Nikki Haley always said? It's about our friends. We need friends in the world, okay? That's why we have the most horrendous, hideous friends known to mankind. I mean, the United States is friends with Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia used a bone saw to attack and kill one of their journalists. So what kind of friendship are we talking about here? That's foreign policy, ladies and gentlemen. But she's absolutely right about this. Absolutely right. That while people in the rest of the country are starving and, in desperate mode, we're living like Mad Max trying to make ends meet. The people north of Richmond, as that song proclaims, the politicians are siphoning out the country and its resources to abet to these foreign nations that have nothing to do with us. And the same that's happening, it's same happening in Canada, same happening in the European nations. I mean, they blew up the pipeline that was serving these European nations with Russian oil. And a lot of these European nations faced a lot of consequences during the winter months because they didn't have proper heating oil. But they then, it was all because the United States admitted to blowing up the pipeline, so they couldn't get the needs of Russia, and they would have to negotiate and buy U.S. goods, but it didn't benefit the European nations or the United States for that matter. It benefited the top elite. It benefited the 1%. And those are the people that are screaming at you, that are manufacturing discord to force you to believe that supporting Ukraine or Israel, or how we need to bail out Argentina now, or why we need to bomb fishing boats on Venezuela are the most crucial and beneficial to everybody, when you can't even get groceries, you can't get gas, you can't meet the needs of survival to live within your own city, within your own home. A lot of people are homeless and they're working. A lot of people are employed and they're homeless, living in their cars because they can't afford the rent. And you're supposed to, and someone like that's supposed to believe that Ukraine is a higher priority than, finding shelter, than caring for yourself. So that's when Candace Owens started to turn on me. Because I thought at first that she was just a typical right-wing, lunatic and, saying all this crazy things. There was a thing about Adolf Hitler she said a while back. I don't remember exactly what it is, but then saying stuff like this really turns it around. She sounds more lefty than AOC. It's amazing. She sounds more like a leftist progressive than the Squad, than Bernie. You get her and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Like they could be the Squad that the Squad should have been. That's how crazy it is. That's how crazy it is. That's how your mind perceives that this whole time, the left versus right factions, it's just completely fabricated. And that there's good and bad in everybody where you look. And sometimes the good in people are the people you least suspect. In this case, I didn't expect Candace Owens and I to agree on the same page. So that's great. That's great. That's amazing that she said that. And here, because now she's the #1 podcast in the world, they're still trying to dismantle her. Because now that she's so popular and people are realizing that, oh my God, that narrative of questioning the Zionists and questioning the Charlie Kirk assassination and questioning the Republicans and the Democrats, my God, we can't get that let out. So she was invited onto CNN. And Candace Owens had this interview with this woman at CNN. And this woman asked Candace what she meant by the word they. Because they're trying to manufacture the idea that every time she says they, she means Jews. And that's how she's anti-Semitic. And that's why people shouldn't believe her. But here's Candace Owens explaining that they is not related to any particular group or person whatsoever. And her explanation for this in regards to using that term.
They is a word. So I don't need to always say they. It's just a weird, it's this is one of these psychology tactics where you're like, who is they? Who is they? And it's
because it sounds like you're saying Jews.
Does the word they mean Jews?
When you're talking about Jews, yes.
But if I'm not.
So again, they is it's a filler term. It doesn't describe a particular person. We all have used it. I've used it. I use they when I'm saying something about the government. They, the government, or they, the people of BC, or they, the people of Ontario, or they this, or it's so ridiculous that they're having this conversation, but they allude to the fact that, because Candace Owens is having a conversation about Zionism, that, they is mean Jewish, and that means you're anti-Semitic. That's what this crazed lady that's interviewing her is expected to believe. So they're trying to manufacture and sow that discord that, because you use the word they, it means Jews, and that means you're an anti-Semite. They're trying to discredit her. But Candace stands her own.
Talking
Watch
about
this.
Jews, then they doesn't mean Jews. When I say they want us to believe this or they want us to believe that, and you hear Jews, that's your own derangement, right? If I want to say something about Jews, I'll say it. If I want to say something about Israel, I will say it. If I want to, just like when I want to say something about black people, I'll say it. When I was saying during BLM, they want us to believe, nobody said, do you mean Jews? And so again, it's one of these trash tactics to make people fearful to speak. If I want to say Jews, I will say Jews. I don't fear saying Jews. When I say Zionists run the media, I mean Zionists run the media. People that support the political ideology of Israel run the media. Any other things that I can help clarify?
But are you familiar with this like very long-standing trope?
Couldn't give a shit about a trope.
That was awesome. That was awesome. That shows flex right there. That shows flex right there. And she still keeps hitting hard. But did you realize that people on social media are going to take it as like you saying they as in Jews? And no, she made it perfectly clear. That's your perception. That's your perception. If I say the word they and I don't explain what they is, it's your guys' mind, the people that are watching me or listening to me, that comes up with your own explanation. Oh, they must mean Jews because that was your mindset. That's your derangement, or they being black people, or they being this. Again, it's just a filler term. It's, you know, this idea that it has to associate to a specific group. And she even said there, like, if I was talking about Jewish people, I would say the word Jews. I would say the word Zionists. I would say the word black people. Like, I'm pretty sure if she was anti-Semitic, she wouldn't hide it. I'm pretty sure if people that were despising, like, literal anti-Semites would not hide by using the word they. I'm pretty sure they'd be upfront and vocal about who they're talking about. They wouldn't hide behind those mealy-mouthed terms. But Candace Owens, again, she uses it just like anybody else because it could mean anybody. She used they when it came to Black Lives Matter. I use they when I talk about the government. Does that mean the Liberal Party? Does that mean the Conservatives? Does that mean NDP? Who knows? They is just a common phrase. They is a common term. It's just so crazy that they're trying to use this as a means to dismantle her because now they know that she's the #1 podcast in the world. She's very, very, poised and has a lot of integrity and a lot of courage and a lot of just, what's the word I'm looking for? Moxie to go out there and, say the truth and be honest and actually be, encouraged to investigate, encouraged to look forward, and do these deep dives. And places like CNN is petrified. Because, oh my God, maybe she's right about things. Maybe she's right about the Charlie Kirk thing. Maybe she's right about Emmanuel Macron and the supposed maybe wife. She's right about a lot of things. We can't allow that to happen. So we got to make her seem like an anti-Semite. So when you use the word they, who are you talking about? So ridiculous. But kudos to Candace. Good job. And we definitely see a lot more of her because I think she's definitely encouraged me to like her way more than I used to and way more than certain other people that I was told to, respect more because that was the dynamic of things. Also show you can have strange bedfellows when it comes to common principles and different things. Come together on common causes. Come together on good and not for evil. That's the thing.